Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Ward. Today, we're going to be talking about capitalism. Actually, all this week, we're going to be talking about capitalism. My favorite subject. One of the greatest things that has ever existed in the world. And the reason is because it's pulled the most amount of people out of poverty that has ever been in impoverished conditions. So, the problem I have with capitalism is the way that we keep going about doing it. Now, I think a lot of people misconstrue where we're at and what we can do in a society, especially in the United States, because there's a narrative. There's a narrative against capitalism. Who would have thought? One of the greatest things to ever be invented. Now, I have a lot of problems with the way that we actually do business in the United States, mainly from the monetary system standpoint, and also which is the banking system, which I've talked extensively about in all of my shows. So if you missed that, go back and listen to some of the shows that I've talked about economics and finance. And I love economics. I love macroeconomics. I like finance because there's math to it. It makes sense to me. But I don't necessarily like the way that the banking system operates and that we're a part of a system that few people control, right? I've said this on multiple shows. So I'm not going to cover that today. What I'm going to cover is capitalism, why it works, how it works. Well, not necessarily how it works, but why it works, why it's good for humanity, and the downfalls of it. And more specifically, what we can change to do about it. That's really what this whole week is going to be about. It's going to be about capitalism, our Sunday show, the Ward Room Live. It's a Sunday morning talk show this week. It's going to be about capitalism and why it works. Not necessarily that it's the best and greatest system that we could have ever produced for humankind. I believe that we can do a lot better. But where we're at right now as far as the argument for capitalism versus socialism, because those are the two real differing oppositions to the way that markets rely. One is free market, a laissez-faire where you let the market decide on what's best. That's voting with your dollars, voting with your earned income, voting with the value placed on what you create for a society. That's how you earn a living, obviously. You want to make a lot of money? How about just focus on a need that gets met? That is not being met, and you can come up with a way to meet that need. That's kind of what a laissez-faire economy is. People are very entrepreneurial here in the United States. We come up with all sorts of ways. A lot of them could be schemes. A lot of them are, very righteous and noble paths for creation of, service. That's what we're talking about. When we're talking about the markets, we're talking about services rendered. And a bill of lading is just an exchange. Most people just exchange it with money. But without getting into the super nerdy accounting aspect of the way business works, free market capitalism doesn't necessarily operate anywhere in the world. There's government involvement in it. And we're at a point in society where people think it's a good idea to have government intervention into the free markets to take care of people. Turn on any of the politicians. They'll know everything. First of all, politicians, they'll have an answer for everything, which is a complete lie. I study this stuff extensively. I don't have an answer for everything. I have theories. I have experiments that could be tested. I mean, America's one big experiment, really, if you think about it, but it's withheld this test of time, and we are certainly seeing it being chipped away slowly as far as the constitutional republic is concerned, which is what the United States is. It's not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic that has aspects of a free market capitalistic society a part of it. Now, the way the banking system is controlled, it's not necessarily a great means of creating wealth but it works. It works if you're a part of the system. There's a lot of people that don't know about finance and how to, be involved in markets, stock market. They don't know how to be involved in, getting compound growth on interest, right? They don't know how to invest in debt. Investing in debt is, an awesome way to create a return for yourself over years and years. And people invest in good debt all the time. That's what real estate is. It's just good debt. You're just, if you're renting, you have a cash flow. And that's just like a rich dad, poor dad. You can study that till you're blue in the face. But a lot of people don't talk about, money specifically and how to actually make it. People are just born into a system, and then they live in that system. They basically become slaves. They're born into a medical system. They get indoctrinated in an education system. They go work in a corporatocracy, and that's a system. They don't necessarily know how to break themselves out of it. So I'm not going to be talking about that specifically, but this week I'm going to be covering why capitalism is the best. First of all, capitalism allows you to have choice. There's choice if it's a complete free market. You have a choice in what you can and cannot do. That's free will. That's about the greatest amount of free will that you could have without being homeless, without being solely reliant on other people. Now, there's a lot of people in the world that are reliant on government programs and incentives, and they don't work because they make the government way too big. Spending is way out of control. Taxes do not cover the amount of money that we spend, and people think that the government just prints money. That is a lie. The government does not print money. Well, I guess U.S. Treasury prints money, but nobody uses money. Are you walking around with, cash in your hand? No, you're using digital currency. So the government is very much a business, and it has its checks and balances just like every business does. And the amount of money that's produced in the banking system and society through inflation doesn't justify the ends to the means as far as when there's a deflationary period in society. Now, I've talked about monetary policy a lot. I'm not going to get into that right now. But there's a lot of things that we need to really fix about capitalism for it to actually work better. Believe it or not, it can work a lot better. Better for humans, better for the earth. But we got to change the way we live. We got to change our consciousness and our attitude about how we go about doing things. Now, look, I like material things. I'm not going to lie. I bought a brand new truck. That's about as materialistic as you could get. But, am I a part of the problem now? You'll see the left side of the political spectrum calling people that eat hamburgers and using plastic straws a part of the problem to climate change, right? Everything's about climate change, and they're pushing climate change. It's an agenda to get you to fall in line for more government power over, regulation over capitalism. And that's socialism, because there's going to be more government programs and regulation that stifles innovation. Stifles innovation in technology, stifles innovation in what you can do as an entrepreneur, because you're not going to be able to do the same things that humans have been able to do in the last, 60, 70 years of the Goldilocks economy, basically post-World War II. But it's more than that. It's been mainly, the past 100 years since a Federal Reserve System has gone into place, and that's basically a fractional lending society. That's another topic for another day. I'm talking about why capitalism is better than socialism. I spent a lot of time at the university, in the university system. I was actually a college student for the better part of 8 years. Often, the first half of it was online school. And then the second half, I was in class. I was a 30-year-old veteran in college, in a sophomore college class. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen indoctrination firsthand in the university system. I know it exists. It's a very real thing. Students will get indoctrinated into believing that climate change is something that's greatly going to affect humans going forward in the future. Now, I will point out that we should definitely take better care of the earth. I'm very in tune with Mother Nature. I spend a lot of time in nature as much as I can because it helps keep me grounded, a grounded man. But, same point in time, we live in a society that's dependent on all sorts of outside resources to come in and make it work. Now, is that the best, thing for the earth? Not really, probably not. Especially when you have huge population of people that need abundance. They need food, abundance. It could be anything. Abundance in food, shelter, basic human necessities. But overpopulation is a myth, and that's a topic for another day as well as climate change. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing the climate change agenda really, which was kind of just a grassroots campaign back in the early 80s, really take form because people have grown up with that narrative their entire life. Now, you could go back, 30,000 years, and Seattle, was a mile under ice. And now it's not. Well, that didn't just happen in the last 150 years. So, the climate changes, but it's more based on what the sun does specifically, and then what the sun does in conjunction with what the water vapor does in the Earth's atmosphere, but where the sun is in the actual galaxy. Most people don't realize that as the Earth goes around the sun like an elliptical orbit, it's not a circle like you'll see on most science models, I guess, in elementary school. It's an ellipse. Just as the Earth and the planets go around the sun goes around the galaxy. And the sun actually has a spiral in its ellipse around the Milky Way galaxy. Anyway, the reason I'm pointing this out is because the sun has more to do with the actual climate of the Earth than carbon dioxide, right? Carbon monoxide. They're two different things, and you'll hear politicians mix it up all the time. Carbon levels in the Earth's atmosphere are really low compared to where they have been, especially in like the Jurassic period, where it was very much, more of a jungle, water vapor type of climate. Most plants actually evolve at 1300 to 1500, like the actual plant species. A plant species will evolve at 1300 to 1500 parts per million, carbon parts per million in the Earth's atmosphere. Great points I'm making, I know. But listen, the real basis of this episode is pointing out to you first, our Sunday show coming up is about capitalism, why it works. Why it's better than socialism, first of all, and then secondly, what we can do to make it better. Because we're not necessarily arguing to make capitalism better in the United States. No political person, doesn't matter. There's 10 Democrats. They're not necessarily talking about how to make capitalism better. They're talking about basically getting rid of it, having the government even bigger, control all sorts of things, get rid of energy independence in the United States. Do you like paying cheap oil to heat your home? Do you like paying cheap gas? Look, the rare earth minerals that go into electric vehicles are detrimental to, we're mining the earth for that, just as much as, fracking probably is as well. So, this is not an easy solution, but that narrative of humans affecting the environment is pushing a socialistic agenda. And it's not necessarily being used in a narrative to talk about how we can make changes through the free market capitalistic society, because the human beings are, up for change. Humans are up for change. But the way that we're getting pushed change upon us is through a bigger government. And that's wrong. The government's already too big. Do you like paying taxes? I surely don't. Do you like having the government tell you what you can and cannot do? Because that's basically what's going to happen. I surely don't. How we fix this whole problem is having a higher consciousness in human beings, a higher awareness in humans, in men and women, about what they do, how they affect things in the economy. Being a strictly consumeristic based economy, it's not necessarily, it's good for business. Is it good for stripping, the earth and smelting a new Tesla? Is that really a great idea? Or a new truck, like in my case? I don't necessarily think it is, but I don't think it's terrible. We can do things in a sustainable practice, but we have to leave government out of it. Because what the environmental police are going to come and do, they're going to come in and they're going to stifle all sorts of innovation and industrialization. Now, we live in a technologically advanced information age, but we're very much reliant upon industrialized technology. And what I mean by that, cameras, cell phones, watches, microphones, lights, anything you think of comes from the earth. They're not shipping in any products from outer space. Last time I checked, that I know of. But everything comes from the earth. You literally look at a brand new, car, Maserati. That is a piece of art because that was literally once just minerals from the earth. Liquid or earth minerals otherwise. And it's been transformed into what it is, a wood table. There's always the analogy, God didn't make the wooden chair, God made the tree, and the humans made the chair. So what is the exact answer? I think human beings need to get more in tune with Mother Earth, to be quite fully honest with you. I switched this picture right here because the last one I had was of the Bahamas, and it was what happened to I think it's Grand Bahama Island? Devastated. Hurricane Dorian. Hurricanes have been happening for millennia, thousands, millions of years probably. Nothing new here. Climate change activists can't blame an increasingly, strong gale force hurricane winds and warm waters on climate change. That is just asinine. There's a lot of things that are retarded about the whole argument. And what I'm saying is, and I'll wrap it up here, is that nothing's going to change until people change themselves right in here first. And once we change ourselves in here, we stop living such an intellectual lifestyle, very consumeristic separation between you and your neighbors, and we start coming together as one and embracing our similarities as beings and helping each other out, bringing water to those who don't have it, helping people that are less fortunate, understanding that there is a connectedness between human beings and the earth, right? So until that happens, until we raise the awareness of most of society, and I think we're getting there. I don't like the way it's necessarily happening with this push for bigger government control. We don't need bigger government control. We need people to raise their conscious vibration to understand, that's what awareness is, to understand the true nature of themselves and how they affect the world, Mother Earth as a whole. And to, really live within the true state of their beingness. Now, I understand they need food. We need food and we need shelter. Do you need a 10-bedroom house if you're a 2-person family? No. I don't live too far from Paradise Valley. There's lots of big empty homes for 1, 2, 4, 5 people. 10,000 square foot homes for 5 people. Think about it. So, I'm not necessarily against manifestation and the, practices of creating bigger, better lives for yourself. I just think we need to get to a point where we're living in a much more connected way. with the earth and with other humans. That's all I have to say for today. Come back tomorrow. This has been the Daily Ward today. I'm going to be breaching this subject all week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and on Sunday we're going to address it live on the Ward Room Live. That's noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. I hope to see you all there. It's a live show. We want interaction. We're trying to create a community here, and I hope that you are all a part of it and stay watching, because we're really driving the difficult to speak about subjects that affect us as a society and finding solutions. We're not just going to point out problems, actually think about solutions that may work. So stick around for that, because we're taking what's the best and worst case scenario here and really driving home a point of what we can do to get to the best case and avoid the worst case in the future. So that's all I have to say today. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow.